a podcast where we explore the background of... Is it recording? That would have been crazy if I just nailed it on the first try. What's up, everybody? My name's Caden. Welcome to the first edition of the Davis Revco podcast, where we sit down with community members, people involved with Davis Revco in some capacity, and we talk about their contributions in one way or another to the music industry, event production, live events industry. And so our first guest is Noah Homsy. Thank you for coming.
Very glad to be here.
Appreciate it. So you are president of the Davis Prod Club. Prod Davis. Started it back in 2020 when you were a freshman here at UC Davis. Talk to me about your experience in the music production field prior to that. What encouraged you to start the club, and how it's kind of grown since you first started?
So it really started before I came to UC Davis, because I really wanted to get into the music scene, the production scene. I wanted to meet other producers, meet vocalists, and then just be with them in a space so that we could all grow and collaborate and work together. So before I came to UC Davis, I had checked out all the clubs. I went on Aggie Life, searched up, and there was actually a music production club already there. So I tried to join, emailed whoever was responsible for it, and got nothing in return. It was kind of just not really existing. And so when I came here, I went to the music department, talked to people, and there was some rumors about it, but it seems like it actually died during COVID. Was a casualty there, and so I had met other producers, Gabe and Kevin and Hazam, who's no longer.
Oh, we have a story about Hazam.
we do. And so with other producers, Gabe was I remember meeting him actually at the Bike Barn during our first week here at UC Davis. Saw he had a Tyler the Creator shirt. And then started talking to him from there. And then I started the club with them at the beginning, and that's how it started.
And looking back on it now, because right now you guys have something pretty big. How many members do you have?
On Aggie Life, I think we have right now 70 members.
Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment to do in. It's been what, three years now, right?
Yeah,
it's coming on your fourth year.
Third year, Third year.
Well, congratulations. That's a big accomplishment to achieve. Talk to me about what's next for Prod Davis now that you've built up a pretty big, organization so far with some pretty dedicated members and some very talented people. What's the next step, seeing that you'll graduate in a year?
So I have 2 years before I graduate. But I'm sure with Prod Davis, we'll see if I keep going with it till I graduate or not. But we want to keep growing our network for sure. On Discord we have upwards of 300 members, and during meetings we have anywhere from 10 to 40 members. But we have yet to have our first meeting for this quarter, and we'll see how many come to that. That's gonna be exciting. Hope to see you there. And
I'll be there for
anyone else who's watching too. We just want to keep sharing skills, growing, doing new stuff, and keep having the space be inviting, inclusive, and keep having people have a good time. And grow as producers and artists. Yeah,
it sounds like you're really providing the space to foster new development, new learning, people trying to just get in, break into the
definitely
to music production. Tell me a little bit about who you are and your background, and what brought you to where you are, and why you are who you are.
I grew up in Uganda. But have family from the Bay, and my dad's family is in France and Switzerland. And I guess musically, I have like in the past like 4 or 5 years been really into production and DJing, and mainly with Afrobeats, hip hop, reggaeton, amapiano lately, and yeah, I'm not really sure exactly where to go with what else you want to know about it.
Well, let me ask you this. What are you studying?
Sustainable agriculture and food systems.
Will you continue music? It's probably a yes, but how is music going to be incorporated into your life once you graduate and are removed from Prod Davis and this kind of college culture where you've gotten heavily involved with music?
So I really, I want to continue doing music for the foreseeable future, for sure. In what capacity, I'm not sure. I kind of, in my like ideal vision of like who Noah / DJ Homsy will be, would be like during the day doing some cool agricultural sustainable work, and then like during the night like collaborating with musicians or DJing or something like that, and then just having fun and living between.
Where do you want to live?
That's a tough one.
Because you're quite the worldly traveler.
I'm not sure, but I think I would want to stay either in those 3 bases, like either here, or in Uganda, or near to my dad's family in France. So not anywhere else. Yeah. Probably.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Interesting.
Am I allowed to ask you questions?
Please. I mean, this is... Yeah, I know we didn't go any over, like, ground rules or anything. I don't want there to be ground rules, but this is supposed to be just, a conversation about music and the industry, and I'm trying to dig deep into culture and how that's influenced people that are currently involved in the music scene, event production specifically. So this is a conversation.
Yeah,
I said, this is an interview, not an interrogation.
Not an interrogation, got it. Despite that, the fact we have kitchen
lovely
equipment.
Spoons.
Yeah. So where would you want to live?
You just flipped that right back on me, didn't you?
Yeah, okay. I'm curious about it.
So currently, and this has kind of come to fruition in the past couple months, put together a little group of friends that have plans on moving down to Southern California and pursuing a production company, a booking agency, live event, like something in that industry where we can all collaborate and make some pretty cool art on a big scale. And be, in 2 years' time, I want to be touring the world with artists and creating music, creating spaces, creating collaborations, putting myself in a position where I can connect people with other people to make really cool things happen. I think that kind of has been what I've been doing with Davis Rave Co., is serving as this kind of organization that fosters the development of creative people, and they get to come together, they get to connect, they get to create things with each other, they get to learn from each other. And I think that's in very many ways similar to what Prod Davis has done too. It's just a collective of people that have very similar ambitions and creative tendencies and interests, and you're kind of putting them all in one space. And that's something that I've been trying to dig into recently, is try to uncover the potential that there is when you do take a lot of people that have a very niche interest, or maybe not even that niche, but a niche interest, but also with a very, very passionate spirit toward that interest, and you put them all in one group, in one room, and you get them talking and collaborating, and then stuff like this happens where we have suddenly a podcast, made possible by Matt. Shout out Matt back there. He's behind the camera. Thank you, Matt. Yeah. So,
and then my follow-up question, would be, in that space where you're like creating a community and creating a space where people can work together, and like benefit from their like common interests and differences as well. What kind of, like, how did you get into doing that? Because I got into doing that very I didn't, that wasn't my goal when I came here. And I don't think that was the other officers' goals either. Because our shared love is for music production. Yeah. But the whole like leading a club and kind of creating that space, that's completely kind of different from just music production itself. And we both DJ, but DJing is completely different to like running Davis Rave Co. Right. So how did you like go into that and start that?
Right. Okay. I see. Yeah. Because great question. That's a really good question. I think it boils down to, yes, you have a passion towards DJing, but in order to grow any interest, you have to develop skills that are outside of that one skill group, right? So you're a really good DJ. You need to learn how to market yourself. You need to learn how to advertise yourself, get new clients, ensure that those clients are satisfied, make sure that you're growing your business. And I think it was Alex Hormozy that said you need to spend time working on your business, not just in your business. And this is a business, organization, club, anything. Like you start it because you like music production. You started because you like DJing. You started because for Davis Rave Co., I just wanted to have an organization that was like set on hosting events, better events than what I had been seeing locally. And then in doing that, you realize there's a lot of skills you need to learn. And that's just entrepreneurship, and I think that in every sense of the word, we are entrepreneurs, and that a lot of people...
I think I really see that in you as well.
Yeah, thank you. But I think that in there are many variables to being an entrepreneur, and at its bottom line, it's just having the willingness to learn things, to grow your brand, to grow your business, having that, not just motivation, because motivation comes and goes, but having the willingness to say, hey, I'm at this point right now. If I want to get to this point, these are the things that I need to learn how to do. I'm going to learn them, and then I'm going to get to this point. Yeah. And I think that what that comes with is building a team around you of people that think the same way, have that same willingness, and then you become this collaborative group of people that get together, and you're all doing that same thing.
Yeah, I remember before when there was like a period of time when Prod Davis was not an official club yet, and we were just meeting in. For those that know, they know. But we were.
I remember. That was the first meeting, right? Yeah. With Hazam. Yeah.
One of the first meetings when we were just in this like lecture. No, not even a lecture hall.
It was like the dorms.
Exactly. We were in
some room with a piano.
We're in Conwood Hall.
Yes.
At Tercero, just like some random room, and we were not an official club yet. We're just like, kind of half. Like telling people we were, just so that we would get that space. Yeah. But yeah, there was a time when like just a couple months where no one else was leading the club but me, and it was not that fun to have to organize that and do that. But once I got people on board, and Gabe and Alec and Skylar, and then we were a team of 4, then it just became so much more fun. Yeah. And then the club just grew so much more. Yeah. That team part I think is super, super crucial.
How do you go about building a team? Or does it happen naturally? How do you recognize it? What goes through your mind when you're, bringing people onto the club, and especially putting them in positions of power, an officer position, like an executive position?
I think, let's see. I think I just realized that I was not alone in wanting to do this, and I think it does happen also naturally to some extent, because as long as you're just connected to the people around you, and keep talking and keep yourself open to just talk to other people and sharing your successes and your struggles, people will just naturally come together and want to collaborate, because we're social creatures, and no one ever does things alone, I think. But let's see. I think, yeah, it did come naturally, but also took intention to like, okay, if we want to have this vision to like where the club should go and what the club should be, it just simply cannot happen by the work of one person.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. So I'd love to tell the story with Hazam.
Oh,
because
yeah,
that was, or we can both kind of pitch in, but we met Hazam, or you probably knew him before the first meeting. I met Hazam that first meeting of Prod Davis, and then I was asked to DJ at Sophia's Thai, which is a bar downtown, and there was the three of us. We practiced for like 30 minutes the day before.
During the meeting, weren't you just like, oh, like, does anyone play sax here or something like that? Like,
is that what I'm looking for?
I think you did. And then you just like,
I had that vision. I wanted a sax player to play over EDM music.
Yeah, and then he was like, oh, I do. And then you guys just like said something quickly and then dabbed each other up, and I was like, nothing's gonna happen because of this. But yeah, and then it did though.
And that was a really fun night.
That was a really dope night. Yeah. Yeah, we just went to your place, practiced a little bit. I was like, man, I do not feel ready for this. And then I was also using your board, which I was not comfortable with either. But
you were on the what was that
little,
board
like,
called?
Joystick. The DJ Impulse, the Hercules DJ Impulse 200. Yes. They don't make them anymore though.
That small thing.
Yeah, that just fit in my backpack.
That, I mean, held you through DJing for, was it 2
Lawntopia.
years? For Lawntopia.
That was crazy.
I remember Lawntopia because I saw a picture recently of a shot, right? It was me DJing, and then you can see on the table 3 controllers all slowly decreasing in size with the DJM mixer on the left.
Yeah, that was, I forget his name.
The other DJ? Yeah, I'm sure we can pull that up.
My board was probably like 20% the size of his, probably.
But it funny. But
it worked.
That was a fun performance. It did
what you needed to do. Yeah.
And that's something that I think we always hear, and I get caught up in with sometimes, is like, you need, in order to do this, in order to like DJ Lawntopia, you need to know how to use CDJs, or you need to know how to use some pretty complicated equipment. In order to produce music, you have to have Ableton Studio with all the plugins and all the packs and everything. And that's just not the case. Nobody really starts that way. Like,
yeah, true. I was about to be like, well, actually,
like that's what I'm. The point is that that's not at all the case, and it's hard to kind of grasp that and accept that, because accepting that is saying that you need nothing else. There are in fact no walls in front of you to start pursuing what you want to pursue.
Yeah, I think for something, for DJing, you kind of just have to go for it. It's not as much of like, oh, you need to take lessons for an instrument like that. You kind of just have to go for it. But I guess production is a little bit more, if you really want to be like super original and really craft your own sound, like that does take. I think it does take much more time, effort. I mean, there are no walls.
I'm not combating that with time and effort, but I'm just combating. I'll argue with that it doesn't take thousands of dollars. You don't have to have a studio with some top of the line equipment.
Yeah. You don't need more tools, but more time, I think.
Definitely. Yeah. How did you? And this can probably lead into a completely different conversation. But how did you get started into DJing?
That was when I was in boarding school, actually, and it was a very small community. Again, the community mattered a lot. Yeah. Because we were just in a boarding school. I can let me actually go into this.
Please.
We were it was in the Netherlands, and it was like a very international boarding school. So I was very happy there, because we were all coming in with different experiences, different ideas, but it was only 200 people. We were all surrounded by a moat, actually, because it was just like
you were trapped.
I mean, not
one
trapped.
Way in, one way out.
Like literally, we were not trapped. Like you can go in and out. Actually, not past 10 p.m. Past 10 p.m. you couldn't go in and out. True. Yeah, we were actually kind of trapped a little bit, but we had more freedom than other boarding schools, but less. Yeah. but we were also like figuratively like quite trapped because we were not really interacting much with the city or anything. It was quite a bubble. It was quite a bubble, and I guess UC Davis is a bubble, and it's to some extent as well. But anyway, there was a DJ there already, but he graduated, and then when I went into my senior year, there was no one else. So I just decided to step up, and I felt like I was like, okay, I feel like I know what songs could like really bring the energy up. And so I had like some ideas and confidence already there. And then I bought that cheap board.
The Hercules,
yeah.
So you bought that in the Netherlands.
Yep.
Okay.
And then did some parties, and the first party that I DJ'd was probably the most, well, at the time it was the most stressful hour and a half of my life.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, you can relate. But I just kept with it.
Yeah. So I guess your first interest started because there was somebody older than you who had done it. What appealed to you? Why did you step up? Why were you like, I can do that, or like, I want to do that?
Yeah, because I think there is like that perception that DJing is not that hard, and it is true to some extent. We talked about that in our DJ workshop.
Yeah,
which we can also talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I felt like it was an attainable thing to do. I'd already done music production, so that also helped me out. And I also felt comfortable in the community, I think, too. I felt like I knew people around me, and it was small, so that helped too. So I just like felt comfortable to like take the aux, basically.
Yeah. How? Yeah. No, it's it's crazy because like it's such a similar thought process that I went through too, and I'm sure that a lot of DJs can relate because everyone starts somewhere and everyone just starts like their first party. It's crazy stressful. I feel like DJing, unique to a lot of things, it's a big like fake it till you make it type thing. Like you're up there, your first time DJing. And some people are
still faking it.
And and people look at you like, yo, like he's crazy, like that was an insane transition, and you're up there like, how did I just do that? Like what did I, And so what was your
even when people take the aux in a car, they're like, oh, like so much pressure.
Right. Yeah.
I think everyone,
because everyone's
relate,
experience is highly dependent on you and your music selection. What was your first paid gig?
First paid, I don't think I got paid for any in my school. They could have paid me, actually, now that I think about it. They paid, but anyway, different thing. But I think my first paid gig was here. Man, I have to think about that. I think it might have been with Hazam and Sophia's.
At Sophia's.
It might have been that, because you were like, you were like, oh, you said your price, and I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever had to do that before. So
yeah, I think they gave me $150 for that night, and I just split it 3 ways.
Yeah, because I remember I'm asking for $50, and then Hazam also called me and he's like, how much did I ask for? And I was like, well, I asked for 50, so, and then I think he,
which is perfect because it worked out.
Equality.
Yeah, that's crazy. Getting paid to DJ versus doing it for free. I think there's a huge step that it takes. Because I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I was actually about to disagree with that.
Really? Because I mean, at least for me, in my experience, I DJ'd for like 2 years before getting paid. So I think that's what I mean by big step.
Like it takes a long time before you can get
paid.
Yeah. In terms of what you're doing though, I feel like that's not really. You could be doing a free gig and doing really, really good work, or doing a paid gig and you might as well do it for free. Yeah.
It's tough because your quality of work doesn't necessarily dictate how much you get paid as a DJ. I think it very much has to do with like experience too, and also like who you know, because I think in the DJ industry it's very much who you know that can put you in positions to get paid gigs, to get to perform in front of hundreds of people.
I wonder if it's like that for a lot of, or for like if that applies to every industry.
Yeah, probably. So I want to get back to the topic of leadership, teamwork, and Prod Davis, and maybe not just Prod Davis, but has there ever been an experience in your life where you've had to take the position of being a leader of an organization, take the reins and lead a group of people?
I think Prod Davis is my big leadership experience.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think in my house, I guess, we have I live at the co-ops.
Yeah, tell us about
SCHA. If you need somewhere to apply to live, sustainable and social justice type community, the co-ops is where to be. But yeah, we have new applicants now. So us, like me and other people that have already been there, also kind of you get a real shift in leadership, because before we were the new people, and now we're the ones that are telling the new co-opers how we do things. However, that system is also quite interesting because it's built on not really having much leadership. So we don't really have landlords. Therefore, when you walk into the house, it's pretty crazy. To write something on a wall, you just have to get the kind of consensus of the house. Yeah. And then you just go for it. Or paint.
Interesting.
Or
that's kind of
furniture.
Cool.
So there isn't actually much top-down control or leadership that goes on there. So I guess everyone is encouraged to be a leader and take initiative, and do make what they want, make the space that they want a reality. Yeah. Basically, but I guess that's not exactly your question.
No, but it went in a new direction. But how? Yeah, that's a very interesting concept of the tri-co-ops, and I haven't spent the time figuring or understanding how it functions. But would you say that it's a very efficient group of people?
So that's a good question as well. Well, I guess we have yet to see this year because it's still quite new. But I think I think it can go both ways, because if there's conflict, if people aren't getting along, and if the group is not cohesive, then it would really kind of go down because of that lack of leadership, and there's no one to kind of reset and now we're doing this, now this is how things should be done, because it's really dependent on the group cohesion. But in the case right now, so far this year, it's been really good. We've been doing what we're supposed to do, just having fun together, and then also harvesting fruits and working in the garden, and so a lot of good things have been happening, just out of the initiative of people, because everyone's getting along and it's the new year and everything.
So I'll throw this at you. How do you take leadership in an organization without a leadership structure, without existing positions or a system of hierarchy?
I think in that situation, it's just it's just being comfortable in the community, and being given the space to take leadership. Just like me starting out DJing, and you, I guess, as well. You're in that community, you're comfortable, it's going well, and then you also have the opportunity, if you want to, you can DJ this party. If you want to, you can do this thing at the co-ops. Yeah. So there's already that kind of system in place that allows people to take initiative and kind of have that go well. Yeah. Yeah. And then here at UC Davis, there's already a system built in to start clubs. That's not that hard. So
and that's through CSI, right?
Exactly.
The Center for Student Involvement.
Exactly. Yeah. So they already have that system built in to that gives people the space to start a club that they want to. That's why there's something almost 800 clubs in at UC Davis.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
There's a cheese club at UC Davis, I'm pretty sure.
A cheese club?
There is.
I didn't know
that. Have not been to any of their events or meetings, but it sounds interesting.
The cheese club. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
So how will what will your legacy be at the co-ops? What is what are you implementing there? What systems,
Well, one of the things I'm very proud of is I don't know how interesting this will be, but
it's probably gonna be very interesting. Now that you said that.
All right, fair enough. There is this compost turner that was very broken. There's like a lot of things at the co-ops. It's like there's a lot of stuff that's just lying around, but I didn't really want to keep giving our compost like the industrial compost because I didn't know where it went. I could have found out, but I didn't. So I wanted to like keep all our organic waste on our property so that we can use it for farming and for just keep it there. So me and a friend basically just patched up the turner, which was more it was like I didn't like know how to do things like that. So now our compost turner is rusty and kind of janky, but functional.
But it works.
Yeah.
But it works.
So that's a change. Also replaced the undersink water filter. So now we have a Culligan D48 filtered water.
Nice.
Yeah.
So at the co-ops, do you guys have meetings once a week or once a month?
We do. Yeah, once a week.
By groups of the house or by like everybody in each house?
We have like all the house members. Everyone in my house meets every week, but everyone at the tri co-ops meets every month. So we have monthly tri meeting and weekly house meeting. And
how are those meetings conducted? Because what I'm trying to figure out here is...
that's a good question, actually.
Yeah, go for it.
So since there's no leader, it's like, how does it work?
Right.
So the position of leadership actually rotates. And that's also something that we're doing at Prod Davis right now.
Okay.
Every meeting, we decide who's the facilitator, who's note taker, who's timekeeper, who's the vibe keeper, too. So it's like kind of quirky and weird, but every meeting somebody has to step up as facilitator, and so they're basically the leader for that meeting. They go through the agenda. They like say who can speak when you like raise your hand. And they're basically the leader for that meeting, and it rotates. I guess it's also like the Swiss government. Don't they also do that? They have like a council of 7, and every year it rotates. That's
actually a very interesting method of that leadership you've implemented of leadership within a school's club.
Yeah, I mean, we're also still testing it out too.
How is it? How long have you been doing it, and how long has it worked? What are the downfalls? What are the pros?
So we've been doing this at Prod Davis since the start of summer.
Okay.
And it's a little bit different because we have like weekly presidencies basically. So on Aggie Life, on paper, I'm the president, but we do try to rotate the presidency every week. So the president also conducts the meeting and hands out the to-do items. And let's see, has it worked? Has it been really effective? I think it's worked so far because it does give whoever's presidency like a sense of responsibility, and that's really what matters. Because if you have this responsibility, it gives you the willingness and motivation to kind of take initiative and go for it. But I do still feel like more kind of weights, more like, oh, this is not getting done, this is bad. I think I have that feeling more than the other officers. But
it may just be that it's your Prod Davis, your little baby.
Exactly, it's my baby. It is my baby. Yeah. So
I like that idea of changing leadership every meeting, because I think you have terms, right? And if you shorten the term down from like what is typically a year, I would say, to like a week. And is it specific to the meeting, or is it like you are facilitator for that week? Like, who prepares the agenda for the meetings, and is that still on you as quote unquote president?
Yeah, so it does last a week. And I guess you're supposed to also be reminding people during the week, but in practice it does kind of only last for that meeting sometimes. So you're only president for that meeting.
I can definitely see how there's a sense of accountability that's being held, though, when you hold a position of leadership over a club for just a week, because you're like, okay, for this week, like, this is what I'm concerned about. This is my priority. These are the tasks that I'm gonna, tackle. The only kind of potential downfall that I could see from that is long-term vision growth and focus on what the club is going to be like a year from now, 2 years from now. But then again, it's a college club, you know, where there's a lot of overturn. Yeah. Every 4 years, it's a completely new group. Yeah. So I don't know if you really need that long-term growth or that long-term vision and goal setting.
Well, let me. Why do you feel like it would be a downfall for the long term?
What I'm trying to say is I think that as being in a position of leadership for a week gives that person the priority of focusing on goals that will be tackled within that week. Whereas if you have a president that is, or a facilitator, someone in leadership for a year, they can be thinking a year ahead.
True.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just interesting how that interplays with term limits and goal setting in an organization.
Yeah, and that was also brought up when we started the whole system, how we're gonna work on these like long-term goals with like weekly to-do lists and all of that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you can break down long-term goals into like shorter to-do lists, but yeah, I mean, to be honest, we're like hella behind on so much stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like I kind of always have that feeling, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think that this system that you have in place gives everybody the opportunity to be put in that position. Yeah. And just it gives them the experience. It gives them the opportunity of growth. And it says, you know, a year from now, people will look back and be like, yeah, I was in that position many times, and because of that, I learned this, and this. Whereas somebody could go 4 years trying to be president every year, but just doesn't work out, and they never get that task.
Yeah, I know you wanted to like talk about upbringing as well. I think like I was taught like through my lived experiences that it's like, you know, top down like control, or just kind of being like having a position of power, or being like cocky, or all of that is like really, really bad.
And like authoritative.
Exactly. And authoritative is just like really not conducive, not healthy. My dad always talks about power and what that does to people. Yeah. And so I'm doing my best to try to counteract that and try to hear as many voices as possible. I mean, obviously it's like to be perfect is an unattainable goal, but like try my best to really give a voice to like everyone I can, and trying to like not hold that power myself.
How would you define the culture of Prod Davis?
I have heard from people. Recently I had a conversation with Codis, and he was telling me that it's very inclusive and healthy, so that gives me satisfaction. And we are also really intentionally trying to set a culture that is inclusive to everyone. During meetings, sometimes what feels comfortable to some people will not be comfortable to others, and that's like an ongoing challenge, like especially when it comes to playing music, because it can get very personal when you're playing music that you've made yourself, that you've produced. Yeah. To a big group of people who you may not know very well. That's a very vulnerable feeling. It's like being a DJ, I guess, as well, but for just like however many tracks you're playing, and like that's tracks those are your babies. You put your heart and soul into those tracks. That's a good point.
Not something I would have thought of.
So that can be a bit difficult when for some people that are playing their music, but we're working on making the listening spaces like as comfortable as possible.
How?
Well, we're gonna have a little bit about this in our first meeting on Thursday at 8 p.m. in the TLC 3215. But I think we want to really be respectful, and simply when people are playing their music, just listen to it and that just means like not really like talking, not paying attention to other things, and kind of focusing on the music that's being played. I like to dim the lights as well. Kind of changes the environment a little bit. and that's what
cool.
I got right
Just
now.
pull focus just to the music.
Yeah.
And then how do you go about facilitating a conversation for feedback?
If people want feedback, then because not everyone else always like really wants feedback.
Okay.
So just checking that people do want it, and then I guess one thing that we did talk about one time was packaging like feedback in like what you liked, what you didn't like, what you have a question with, and not just like hitting people with like, oh, this is whack or something like that. But
breaking
that
down, kind of
yeah,
almost forcing the feedback people to give feedback based on categories, almost in a way.
Yeah, and just like giving compliments as well as criticism as well as questions, so you don't only get the criticism part, and then you can because that can kind of maybe make you feel bad.
I definitely think that like you mentioned, putting yourself in that position where you're sharing something that you made and put a lot of time into, and put a lot of yourself into. It's very vulnerable, and that creative ambition is very fragile, I think.
Yeah.
It can be at sometimes. And if you do receive negative feedback, that could hinder your thought process next time, because then you're starting to think like, oh, well, these people like my music now, But then again, there's something to be said about like, why are you making the music in the first place? Is it to be pleasing an audience, or is it to be pleasing yourself?
Yeah. That's a good one. I mean, creative expression, but also, music is also a consumer product in some cases too. So I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
How about you? You played me a track recently, or just now.
Yeah.
How did you feel? What's the music
I personally love any sort of feedback, and criticism and compliments are great, but I think compliments don't do so much as criticism, because and I'm sure it's had to do with my upbringing as well, just being put in so many different environments and having to adapt and learn about new culture and new situations, new atmospheres, and being able to kind of roll with whatever punches are thrown at me. And so I've only been like producing music for a month or two now. And so in that way, like, I know that it's not going to be at the standard that I want it to be. Like, I have a standard set in my mind. Like, I'm not going to release a track until I know that it's the best that I can do, or to the point that like I look at it or I listen to it and I'm like, this project is done. I've put in as much work as I want to put into it, and now it's ready to be released to the public, and my time with that track is done. I think Rick Rubin he spoke on that a little bit, and he's like, once the minute that a piece of art is released, the relationship with the creator and the art is new. It's something that it's like a BCAD type thing. Like, suddenly this is now in the public domain. People are creating their own interpretations of it. It is no longer something that you can tweak, that you can adjust. It is now out there. So I guess going back into how I receive criticism, it's like I'm selective, right? Who and at what times I'll take criticism from, and whether or not I implement that criticism is also a different step, because I think that sometimes you'll hear criticism from somebody and it skips over the personal filter that you should have, and it is taken as like a directive or something, and it's something that you should change. Whereas I think that there should be a filter in between that, and it should be, you receive criticism from anybody, but it's that filter that you set to dictate what feedback gets implemented into your work and what you even like really listen to.
Yeah, it's not always clear how to really filter things.
Of course. No, of course. I think that bigger picture, you can release work, right? A track, a piece of art, and you can receive a million different, comments, reviews, feedback on it. People could hate it, people could love it. And at the end of the day, like, it's your work that you did, and if you enjoyed making it, and if you enjoy what it is, like, what else is there? You know, like, if that's your
That's what feeds you.
Authentic, form of expression and what feeds you, then, you could, who cares what people think, you know?
Then it's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how have you found your music production journey so far?
It's been wild. It's been something I've wanted to do for 3 years now.
Yeah.
And it's been very, very daunting. I bought Ableton 2 years ago, and I've just started using it. And
That's good. That's good. A lot of people
that's true. But and so I bought it 2 years ago, and then a year after that, I bought a little MIDI controller, and then a year after that, I'm finally using everything. And I think that it was very daunting at first to start, because it is. I mean, if you've never looked at Ableton before, and then you just look at it, you're like, what am I?
Numbers and colors,
and it's gray, and it's like, what is this? And I also confused. I took everything that there is to look at about music production, and I compiled it together into this one wall, I guess, metaphorically. And I convinced myself that I had to learn all of this before I could start making music. And in that wall compiled was music theory, software knowledge of how to use Ableton, a good understanding of trending music, good music of all different time periods. And that just I don't know, for me, it just scared me. And I was like, wow, I'm not going to be making good music for a long time because I have to learn all of this, and not even good music, but even starting, because I have all these barriers in front of me. At the end of the day, I don't know, what was the first, I just opened up Ableton and I was like,
press some buttons.
Yeah. And I was like, what does this do? This is a cool sound. I'm going to, loop that sound and add this. And wow, this sounds terrible, but God, it was fun to do, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know every function about I felt like, just, you don't have, you never have to, the wall is always just a mental blockage.
Right.
It just prevents you from doing what you want.
And at the end of the day, it's the people that are crazy enough to think that they can, make some really good music that end up doing it.
Yeah.
And pushing those walls down and just saying, screw that, and just starting,
Yeah. And I'm curious how well people know Caden. So I was asking you earlier, you told me that you 15 to 18 in Ecuador.
Right.
But before that.
Yeah, 14 to. Yeah, around, 14.
Before that, were you, because you spent time in Davis before going to UC Davis?
So, so I've been here at Davis since 2020, here in college. And then prior to that, I was in Ecuador going to an international school for 4 years. That was 9th grade through 12th grade. I was 14 through 18 around that time. And then before that, I lived in Southern California. And I started high school there in Huntington Beach for 1 semester, and it was barely 1 semester because I think it was just the month of September. And then my dad picks me up from school and he's like, hey, I applied for a position in Ecuador, and we had lived in Ecuador before, and he worked for the same project, but a different company took it over because there was a gap after the 08-09 recession that the project stopped. And then years later, 6 years later, 7-8 years later, they called him back up and they said, hey, you were part of this project before. A new company is investing in it. We'd love to have you because you have gained experience in that time. So he accepted the position, and it happened like that. I mean, I was going to school one day, my dad picks me up, and then I think a week later I stopped going to that school and we started packing up and we started the whole moving process.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we moved to Ecuador, which is one of the best things that's happened to me, And
why do you say that?
Because, well, one, I'm just a huge optimist, but also I think everything happens for a reason too. And I probably, let's say something different happened and we moved to, I don't know, let's say some other country, I probably would have said the same thing. But looking back on it, I like to have that thought because it's it is true. The people I met in my time in Ecuador, the experiences that I had, being put in a international school for some very formative years of your life, which are high school. And I mean, my graduating class was 23 kids. We were very small. it was a very cool community to be a part of. That's where I started DJing. That's where I kind of developed a love for event production.
Like also a small community you were
yeah,
comfortable in.
Yeah, because I think that you can be a part of a really big community, and you can make that community smaller, but you can't make a small community bigger. And there's a lot that goes with that, but I really enjoyed being a part of a very small community, and because I think it allowed me to really be myself. I wasn't presented with like the daunting idea of just being a number, in like a huge pool of people. And I think it set me up to be more comfortable coming to Davis, where there are 30,000 something people,
It's big switch.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think that, depending on the community that you're surrounded with, there are times where you need to look objectively at your perspective and say, hey, I have outgrown my pool, what's the saying? It's like the fish only gets as big as its
pond.
Whatever, yeah, something like that.
But yeah, I know what you mean. I haven't actually heard that before, but I see what you mean.
But the concept kind of makes sense. Like there is in some ways a cap on personal growth when you are, and this doesn't necessarily have to do with just the number of people you're surrounded by, but like that move to Ecuador and then to Davis has instilled this like constant drive in me to continue striving for more. And more as in more experiences, traveling the world. Like I also don't have a fear if I have to, quite literally no fear whatsoever if tomorrow I just had to move out to like some other remote country.
Like,
and I was
let's go.
I'd be like, yeah, let's go figure out like what's next in life,
That's that. Yeah, I was gonna ask you about if those moves like really helped you become like I think you mentioned like adaptable to like just going for it and and going like facing new experiences head on. I think definitely has.
I've been spitting out quotes this whole podcast, but
no,
I'll throw out
I
another.
feel like that's what you're supposed to do on podcasts.
I'll throw out another.
I've definitely not experienced in this, but yeah.
Yeah, so my dad told me this one. Charles Darwin said, "It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent. It's the ones that can adapt to change." And I think
There you go.
that's something that's been instilled in me like my entire life. I'm very grateful to have been presented with the experiences that I have. And then now, like I said, I can just go somewhere. Do you feel the same? I mean, you've traveled a lot too.
I'm thinking about Biz2B right now.
You lived in a inside of a moat.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know that. That's cool, and it just makes for fun stories and cool experiences. It makes you who you are.
Yeah. I do feel like we kind of idolize like all these like internationalism a lot. I don't know, just in the spaces that I've been. Like, this country, wow, cool. And then when you ask people like, oh, where are you from? Like, oh, I'm just from this one place. And like, why should people be like, feel bad about that? But I guess it's a separate thing. But, I do think, but I think there's a lot of value in traveling. And hence why people want to do it and like go for it. And it's true that it does kind of, once a fish is like dropped into a new environment, that adaptability really, I think, helps you figure out who you are and helps you grow and just like helps you as a person.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. Yeah. Matt's nodding his head.
Yeah.
Nice.
one more shout out to mwong.media out there producing this whole show for us.
Yeah. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, are there any other topics you wanted to touch on? I feel like this has been a great conversation. I don't know, Matt. What are we looking at?
You got 14 minutes until the card's full.
14 minutes till the card's full.
How long are you going?
You can go for 54 minutes.
54 minutes. Whoa.
We can call it there.
I guess that's what podcast.
And then
yeah.
And then we can. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully this can continue. Like we can do more of these episodes, and we
appreciate you. Like just last night, you were like, "Are you free tomorrow?"
Well, this was an idea that Matt and I had yesterday.
That's crazy.
I mean, we were just like, "Yeah, let's put on a little podcast." And so I want to have more people on the show. What is
the show called?
Oh, man.
Come on. I was thinking, while we were talking, I was like, how about the
Spoons cast?
or like the Spoon and Ladle podcast or something. I don't know.
I'm sure we'll figure out a name. Maybe we should call it Davis Ravco Podcast or something. Branded under the DRC realm. I don't know.
That could be nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see what
find
sticks.
a jingle for this
We'll
too.
see what sticks.
And a little intro and outro. All right. Well, Noah, thank you so much for coming on and having a conversation with us today.
Much appreciated. First podcast.
Yeah.
Check.
There you go. No. All right, dude. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Thank you, Matt.
Have you guys never been on a fucking podcast before? That was so good.
Oh my God.